Yeah, do we need a revolution? Hell yeah. Do we need some evolution? Hell yeah. Do we need some retribution? Hell yeah.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the 817 podcast. This is Halloween themed. Actually, it's not themed, but the Halloween week show. Jimmy, what was your favorite costume ever as a kid?
I was never a big Halloween person.
That is so interesting to me. Because
I probably wore the same mask that was a football head for 6 or 7 years in a row. I was never that into it.
That is so crazy because you're a movie guy.
Yeah.
Star Wars.
Yeah.
You sports. I feel like you would have been all about it.
Yeah. I don't know. It was just never really my thing.
Yeah, I would say my favorite costume was The Rock. I was a huge Rock fan when I was little. Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Yeah.
I was a huge Rock fan.
Maybe you should have gone as an actual Rock.
That would have been a lot easier. That would have been a lot easier. But yeah, man, so really excited to jump in here and get going. We're going to have a different setup, right? What you feel about the setup? What do you want to tell them? We're not going to do wins and losses, not a big story. Why are we doing that this time?
Yeah, there just wasn't a ton of major headline news this week, but there were a lot of stories that we think really affect the economy of Fort Worth and the people of Fort Worth. And so we want to take the time to hit on all of those, and that means changing things up a little bit for this episode.
Yeah, and so we're going to have, we have basically 5 stories up, different parts that how we're thinking about how this matters. Some of the things we've talked about, and now we just have updates on. So the first topic we really want to hit here is travel. As we're getting ready for the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, it doesn't look like people want to stay inside and not travel for these holidays based off of just the energy of, I always tell them I could describe my energy of Tarrant County by driving by Papa Do's. That's when I see Papa Do's popping, I'm like, yeah, people going somewhere in Thanksgiving. But I mean, but you're also seeing that Southwest and American Airlines are reporting obviously massive losses this year. 10 billion total losses among Delta, United, and just the 4 largest. So that also includes American and Southwest. Southwest also said they lost $20 million in September, $40 million in November, announced that they're going to open up the middle seat after me and you were just talking about how, Southwest brags about customer service, and now they're being like everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, Delta is the last man standing for no middle seats, and they're also consistently adding people to no-fly lists if you refuse to wear a mask. So they're still going pretty hard on it. But DFW and Dallas Love Field being hubs for American and Southwest respectively, they bring a lot of jobs to the area. They're really relevant to the area. And I think it's really interesting for people who have flown already and are potentially going to fly around the holidays to hear what the difference is. Honestly, we're going a couple days before Thanksgiving, flying to Orlando.
So you still are?
Yeah, we still are.
You're hey, even with high cases, the coronavirus cases at all-time high, 83,000 on Friday.
Yeah,
you're still good.
I think the science points towards airplanes being a really safe environment. They haven't done a lot of testing if nobody was wearing a mask, but because of how quickly they turn over the air in the cabin, I think it remains pretty relevant that it's a safe environment. Honestly, the way coming back is the first weekend of December, and we just bought another ticket. So now we can have a middle seat, and maybe I shouldn't say this on air, but if we see that the flight is not going to be full and that the standby list is full, we might just cancel that ticket 10 minutes before takeoff, because on Southwest there's no penalty.
Man, I always love your hustle.
Yeah.
Your hustle of travel and logistics is just impressive.
I think that I don't disagree with Southwest's decision to open up middle seats. It sucks from a comfort level. as in like physical comfort on the airline of not having anybody sitting next to you.
Yep.
But I think the science backs it up. I think that it was just an interesting decision now, after they already had recently released their schedule out into the late spring.
But what about the airport? Like, what about like being in the airport part?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that's part of why we fly out of Love Field anytime we can, is because it's smaller. We're TSA pre-check, so we don't feel the rush to show up super early. That is an interesting piece of it to me, is will the airports themselves feel more crowded, which I don't know. If airlines still aren't adding flights, then is it really going to change the dynamic there?
Yeah, and I guess for me it's because I'm also planning to go to my grandparents for Christmas. Well, before Christmas, for my 80-year-old, my grandma's turning 80, so we're doing a party and everyone's going. And I don't want to be the people not going, but it's I mean, but I'm also, I guess it's just also worried about the control of just even in my family. We got college kids, we got people who work in the airports, we got people who work and travel like myself. So and collectively, just in our little 30 people, 20 people at this gathering, you're going to hit a lot of different vicinities of the country that are coming together in one spot. And that's what holidays are about. And you're seeing that they're seeing a growth in flights and people becoming more comfortable. And I agree that holidays is going to be close to normal.
Yeah, and that's a scary thing. And I mean, it like we're going to Disney World, which we see as more safe than going to Thanksgiving with my family. And that's just an interesting place to be right now, where it's like, we have frontline workers in our family that are coming in for that. Same with like college age people. And then my grandma just turned 90. And so it's really just a tough situation. I will say we're looking at going back to Sarasota for Christmas, but are probably going to drive at that point because we are a little bit more wary of what travel is going to look like around Christmas as opposed to Thanksgiving when we're still flying without someone in the middle seat.
Well, we'll see. And I mean, for me, I think like this, just the money part. And I don't know if you saw, there was actually, I'm going to blank on what country was doing it, but the people were trying to get creative on how to like keep their airlines going. And, I want to say I
think it was Singapore, or Indonesia, flights to nowhere. You just take off, fly around for a little bit and land.
But they were also doing like dinners, or like they turned into a restaurant. Do you see that one?
No.
Yeah, and they sold out. I mean, super early. It was a full on like restaurant experience because people wanting to still go to the restaurant, but the one thing you can't trust is the air changes in the airline. So the airline said, "Well, let's turn our plane into a restaurant."
Interesting.
So people can feel comfortable actually eating back doors, quote unquote.
Yeah.
So and they seem to have some success. It was two big jumbo planes, I believe in China, but I think it's Singapore, potentially like airline that was doing it.
Interesting.
So I thought that was cool. So it's crazy to see who. I mean, you imagine being an executive or a financial person in these airlines right now trying to hold up. It's just that's a lot of money to be losing. I mean, they said $2.4 billion loss American Airlines reported on Thursday, and 1.2 billion Southwest in the third quarter.
Quit buying back your stock. That's all I have to say.
Yeah. Hey, they never lose, even in bailouts.
But another cool little airline thing is that company announced that out of Love Field, they're going to be doing private flights from Love Field to Houston Hobby for $99. It's basically business class style seats. Really easy. You show up to a private terminal, maybe 20 minutes early, hop on a plane, get down to Houston.
That seems fun.
I think that's a really interesting thing. I wonder if that could potentially be a market that pops up where you can take these like less than 1 hour flights for pretty cheap in a business class style setting and avoid a lot of the airport waits, if that makes people feel more comfortable.
Yeah, no, I think, that seems sweet to me. I mean, I'm a natural. I don't mind driving personally. Like,
yeah,
you
same.
said, that's so. I mean, the time to get to Love Field plus park. I don't know. It's still cool.
Yeah,
and I think travel's going to look different. I mean, things on Airbnb is looking like their numbers are doing well too.
Yeah,
because people are just buying Airbnbs nearby, and they're saying, hey, well, let's get bigger houses for these holidays and drive to a location. So I think it's just cool to see that what I think what's really exciting about all this is when you have offices closing, you have schools closing, you have virtual, people are traveling less. It's making us realize that, wow, the infrastructure of our systems that put us in traffic, made us waste time, made us focus on industry rather than our value of our time and our space and our happiness. It's now really changing us questioning, like, what is valuable to us? Is it the hour drive in traffic to Dallas to work for a lot of Fort Worthians? Is it, all this traveling I'm doing and missing my family, or do I miss traveling where I want to do more of it when this is over? It's going to be really cool to see how people change their lifestyles after it.
Yeah, and I think when you look at countries around the world that show a higher quality of life, one of the big things is that people don't commute, and you get like an hour and a half to 2 hours back in your day every day. Yeah, what would Fort Worth look like if everybody commuting to Dallas got 2 hours back in their day?
Powerful.
Yeah,
it'd be super cool.
There's a lot that you could do with that time, whether that's in the community or with your family.
That's a perfect transition to the art gallery, like the outside art gallery trails. Maybe they could spend some time. The Fort Worth Magazine. You know more about this story than I do, but about how the portion of the Trinity Trail is going to have like outdoor art gallery set up.
Yeah,
they can hang out, ride some bikes. We talked about how bikes are being sold out. Stuff like that.
Yeah, so
leisure.
The Tarrant Regional Water District has commissioned 21 artists from around the country to paint murals on floodgates and other structures along the Trinity River, a project being called Painting the River, a Trinity Trails mural gallery. So the murals will be displayed along 13 miles of the Trinity from the Naval Air Station Joint Reserve Base near White Settlement through downtown to Gateway Park on the city's east side. Murals span about 7 to 10 feet wide, some reaching up to 12 feet tall. This is super cool.
Yeah.
They had about 250 applications, out of which they chose 85 finalists. And then Fort Worth artist Katie Murray selected the final 21 artists who would participate. And it looks like, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 are going to be locally done by Texans. So a third of them. This is really cool. As soon as I saw it and read it, it reminded me of when we were in Australia in Sydney at Bondi Beach. They every year have this big festival where they bring all of the this art and mostly statues out along the cliffs of the beach, and it's like a few miles long. You're able to walk down it, walk through all of these sculptures.
That's sweet.
And it was something we really enjoyed doing. I think it's a great way to make use of the Trinity and hopefully continue to turn it into an attraction. We talked a couple weeks ago about how we utilize our green spaces.
Yeah.
I think this is a really great way to start.
Yep, and it just shows that to me is what's going to be a really competitor for us to compete with the other big cities in Texas, right? I feel like everyone has some type of water, aqua kind of experience weaved into the urban development. And we obviously have it here, but now making it less industrial feel and actually provide some value. So, yeah, super cool story.
13 miles is a pretty solid bike ride, but, that could be a really nice day trip or something you chip away at over time. It gives you something different to do. Like, let's say you looked at 2 every weekend. Like, that's a a few months of time that you're able to take up being outside.
Yeah. Speaking of kind of also being outside and doing stuff with the family, what's going to look different this year is also Halloween. What's really interesting about Halloween in Texas is we only have 2 counties in Texas, Hidalgo and El Paso, that have banned door-to-door trick-or-treating. Other counties are discouraging participation around going door-to-door and promoting safer alternatives such as carving pumpkins and having candy hunts at home. This weekend, the 31st is Halloween. How do you expect it to look like? I haven't heard a lot of news about what this should look like in Tarrant.
The official stance for Tarrant was more of the personal responsibility BS that hasn't gotten us very far up to this point. I mean, we've seen throughout this year that personal responsibility doesn't go very far. That essentially means selfishness to the majority of Americans. Yeah, I mean, wear your mask. Hopefully, I always grew up knowing that if a person's front porch lights were on, that meant that they were open for business, come knock for candy. And if they were off, that meant like, leave us alone. So I don't know if that was a nationwide thing or just like something in Florida my parents taught me, but hopefully that's something that's really easy for people to be able to identify. Hey, don't go up to this person's house, or hey, come on up, or I don't know, you put a bowl of candy way out at the curb. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I've seen a couple things of people creating little pods in their neighborhood where it's like us 10 houses are going to trick or treat at each other's houses.
Yeah.
I don't know how you like keep other people from seeing that people are walking up to your door. Yeah, that you're having fun and giving out candy.
Yeah, if your house is too lit and then the other kid's like, I want to go to that spot. Why can't we knock on that door? It seems like that's where the club's at. I'm start having a VIP list in front of my house. Like, all right, this is where it's going down.
It's outside. People are used to wearing masks at Halloween. It seems like a lower risk activity. But hopefully people are still respectful of those that don't want people coming up and knocking on their doors.
I don't know if I was in town last year for Halloween, but I feel like Halloweens are not that busy over here, no?
Yeah, I think last year we were like dumping bowls of candy into the kids that came up to our house. I think we maybe had like 10 visitors the whole time.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a little more relevant for Fairmount and Ryan Place that tend to go a little bit harder on the Halloween game.
Yeah. What's really crazy is how people love Halloween, like the way they dress up their outdoor like house and like decorate. I mean, some of those I'm like, man, that is crazy cool. Like some intense love, like that I can't comprehend.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, but it's super. I mean, some really great work out there in these houses.
I appreciate it a lot. I appreciate looking at it. I'm not as big of a partaker though.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and look into, I think, kind of our next topic here is really just an update on voting, elections. We had Biden-Trump debate. The second one, it was supposed to be the third one, but it was the second one. So we could talk about that. We can also then talk about how Tarrant County added more voting, 8 voting options because of the surge. And we can also talk about the recent polls. So go ahead and what piques your interest right now when you talk Tarrant County politics and voting?
Yeah, I think let's keep it local. Tarrant County having to open up 8 more early voting locations is an incredible sign. Means that people are getting out to vote. It means that they had the infrastructure and poll workers to be able to do that. So anybody doing that, thank you for your time. Thank you for volunteering and being out there, putting yourself out there into those situations right now. I think it's a good sign. The youth turnout has been wild.
It is
like 7 to 8 times all of what voted in 2016.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Texas continues to lead the way in percentage of 2016 votes cast, with Houston continuing to lead the charge on that. I think it's really encouraging to see how Tarrant has shown up as a place that traditionally doesn't show up to vote.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy to see that people are taking this seriously and are exercising their civic duty to go out and vote.
Yeah, I mean they're saying that we could be on track for 150 million votes nationwide. They say the largest voter turnout since 1908, which I found odd because women couldn't vote, people of color couldn't vote. So I just found that odd. I just wonder how that record's held all the way back then.
I bet it's not total votes. I bet it's percentage of voters.
That makes
which
sense.
The white dudes are going to show up.
Yeah. So, but then also, I think what's cool about this is just I've been talking about, and one of the people I'm most proud of is, my wife and all the people who are out there, phone banking, text banking. You mentioned your wife doing so as well, doing that. And it's cool to hear kind of their statistics saying that there's possibly 3 million undocumented or like unregistered Texas Democrats, and Hillary only lost by 800,000 votes, and Beta only lost by 200,000 votes.
Yeah.
And so that is really cool. But then also making a reference to our boy Max Krockmall, which Monica started reading Blue Texas.
Yeah.
I didn't know that Hillary technically won majority votes in Texas, but Obama won the caucuses because we have Texas two-step, which then allows to, which I guess it was made in 74 to allow for more diverse representation in Texas Democrat politics, and Barack Obama's involvement and his team knowing that allowed them to actually still win Texas.
I had no idea.
Yeah, right.
You're talking about in the primaries?
Yeah. Like it was like literally in the first couple of pages of Max's book, and I was like, man. So kudos. We interviewed Mr. Krockmall, Professor Krockmall. So we literally were just talking about that last night, and
that's crazy.
Pretty crazy, huh?
Yeah,
pretty crazy.
wild.
I mean, think about how different the world could have been. There probably would have been. I mean, if Obama didn't win Texas, and we probably wouldn't have Obama. We probably. Who knows? You know? Like it's crazy stuff like that. How Texas plays a big role, and that's why we have to become a voting state. We're not a red state; we're a non-voting state, and so this is awesome.
Yeah, and a poll that came out this morning from Dallas Morning News and UT Tyler had Joe Biden up 3% in Texas, obviously well within the margin of error. Quinnipiac poll from a couple days ago showed them tied at 47. I mean, it's going to be tight. It's pretty crazy. And we're thinking Beto and
Julian,
Castro are calling for one of Biden, Obama, Kamala to come to Texas and really fire people up. That, I mean, when was the last time that happened, that a president could, or a presidential candidate could potentially come to Texas the week of the election from the Democratic side? Yeah,
that'd be super. I mean, that'd be super cool. I mean, and what would be cool about it is you talk about firing up people who want the blue wave to happen. You come to Texas, make that morale boost. Man, if he's coming to Texas, that means... I mean, that was a strategic move. And I love that they sent Kamala to Georgia after Homeboy said, Kamala, Mama Love, whatever her name is. Yeah. And they sent Kamala there.
Yeah.
She was a classy lady. I don't think she clapped back, but I can't wait to, when they do win, Kamala says, sir, it's Madam Vice President to you. Yes. So, that's going to be awesome.
Obama's in Orlando. Today is Sunday. He's in Orlando tonight.
Awesome.
And he's been, I mean, they sort of waited till the last minute to put him into gear and have him try and really fire up people at the end.
And he's smooth, man.
Yeah, he is. I don't know where else he would go, though. I mean, he could go to Georgia, North Carolina, Ohio, but Texas seems like a really relevant place to come. So it's really crazy to see Texas and especially Tarrant County playing a major role in this election.
So, hey, it's EJ here, and I just wanted to jump in here because right after we recorded this on Sunday, William Joy, a WFFA reporter, announced that the Biden-Harris team has supposedly decided that Kamala Harris will be coming to Texas on Friday. So we wanted to make sure we entered this into the show so we can all be celebrating for that kind of momentum coming to Texas. All right, back to the show. Well, we'll continue to see. I mean, my big question here is, because we live in Texas, we grow up not voting because, at least I did, grew up not thinking votes matter because we're Republican, we're a red state.
Yeah.
And so I still know a lot of people who are voting red. And it's been very tough for me. It's been very tough for me because I would like to say, like, I'm still trying to figure out who I am politically. Like, I don't know. I believe everything's about the yin and yang of we are a capitalistic society, but then we also need government and equality. And, it's a constantly scale of the ball, which side of the scale we're leaning too much on. And so I feel like before Trump, I would have called myself a moderate or maybe like a progressive independent, where I even felt like Democrats wasn't progressive enough for me. But because of Trump and all the other Republican leaders kissing up to him, I became this like massive Democrat who is raging against Republicans. And I don't want that to be what I feel necessarily long term after Trump. Like, I think once we can get past Trumpism, I think I might say, hey, I'm ready to hear everyone.
Yeah.
So what is your take there? And how do you deal with people who are voting for Trump? Because I tell my Republican people, man, like, I'm down, like, vote Republican down the ballot and just pick at the end, like, skip. Skip.
Yeah.
Just skip it. Because Trump is not Republican.
Yeah.
Trump is not Christian.
Yeah.
Trump is not everything people think he is.
Yeah.
And that is, and I just think there's something there that we need to, like, I'm trying to figure out why do I have friends voting for Trump who I think are smart.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't engage. I don't think that it is relevant or worth engaging in right now because of how dug in people are.
Yeah.
And I relate to you. I would have called myself, my mom's has always been a registered independent, and we always had conversations that were not relevant to either party necessarily. But the lack of value for human life and human dignity that this man shows pushes you as far left as you need to go. And so I do think that after so many people tie their identity to him, and so once he is gone, I think there is actual opportunity to engage on what you think is right and wrong or beneficial to the country. And so I don't think that's the answer people like, but I don't think that civil discourse can necessarily exist when so much, really everything the Republican Party says that they are is tied to the individual of Donald Trump right now.
And a recent study just came out. Pew Research did it. I actually have to send it to you. You'd love it. And it was talking about there's 36 million U.S. Twitter accounts, and the top 10% are responsible for more than over 90% of the post.
Wow.
And of the 10%, so 3.6 million people, of those, 69% of them are Democrats.
Interesting.
So we always talk about how Facebook is the Republican media, but then Twitter is like its own universe as well.
Yeah.
But a place that I think always gets me really weird is how weird YouTube is.
Yeah.
And how YouTube has so many like Trump YouTubers.
Yeah.
That makes like it feel like when you go into YouTube world, you're like, man, what is it because Republicans don't trust main media, so most Democrats are on newspapers and actual mass media, where I guess Trumpers and conservatives then go to find it on YouTube. So then it is their little space, because that's to me what I think the two types of people I see voting for Trump are people who are just too much about capitalism.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, taxes, and like, oh, money. And it's like, oh, and they're still like, that's their top priority. And I'm just like, I can't help you if that's what you're focused on right now. Because what you said about the respect of people. And then the other part that pisses me off is like, no, he's not the guy who you would invite to dinner. It's like, why would you want a president that you couldn't invite to dinner?
Yeah. Like,
that's actually a big deal, a judgment of someone that you wouldn't invite to dinner. And then on top of it, it's like, we need, like, it's just, how can you not just accept that this dude's racist? This dude lies all the time. And then I kind of look at, like, I'm a believer that the president isn't much but supposed to be the person that we're proud of when we look in the mirror and we see ourselves as Americans. But then also when we look at the world sees us as what we are to them.
Yeah.
And it's like having a bad when you rent a car and a customer service person is a dick.
Yeah.
Like, this person represents America. Like, they're our customer. Like, he's our like, he should be giving us the greatest customer service. And that's what I loved about Obama. Like, he was just that for everyone. And so that's that. And then I'll let you speak on that. And then I did have a second thesis, a hypothesis of why I think people still vote for Trump.
Well, if you wouldn't invite Trump over for dinner, the person that Trump goes to dinner with are all of the world leaders that want to invite him to dinner. Yeah. So if you wouldn't have him over, why do you think that the leaders around the world of our allies or countries we respect will want to have him over for dinner? And I think that's why you see him falutin with Putin. I didn't mean for that to rhyme, but that worked. Xi in China, Kim Jong-un in North Korea. Those are the only people inviting him over, because our allies and the people who typically have respected the U.S. don't want him, don't want to meet with him.
Yep.
So that's my thought on that.
Yeah. So my other big one was around this whole. The other thing I think it is the only place where Trump is leading is white dudes.
Yeah.
And I think what Trump embodies is masculinity, in the sense of the rules matter to everyone else, but he is the epitome. And you and I know what we're talking about here. When it's just dudes on a chat, or it's just dudes on a golf course, or just dudes on a fantasy football league, my names for some of my fantasy football league teams, right, are things you would never talk about, right? He is the epitome of when the door is closed and power is talking.
Yeah.
And so masculinity, and I think it's when you look at masculinity with a K, and Jimmy Sweeney's of the world, who are true masculinity, telling everyone to wear their mask, people with, Joe Biden wearing a mask, rather than, and I think a lot of people have this bro-ness about them. Like, I feel like we make our political decisions like the dude who walks around a gym with like big old muscles and like eats creatine, and like we like capitalism, like, yeah, it's like my money, and like, these taxes, and like, oh, if I can do it, anyone can do it. And then like, and it's just like this bravado that I think that is just put in our politics that he represents. And you're about to see that this is not what America is anymore.
Yeah, I think that's a good thought.
Yeah.
And to bring it back to Tarrant County and Texas, I think that we do have leaders in this community that enjoy embodying that.
Yeah.
And one example recently,
Oil and gas is that.
Yeah, oil and gas is that in a lot of ways.
Tough guy.
Not to, if you're an oil and gas guy and you're not like that, then shout out
Keep
to
being
you.
you. Actually, we had Bryce, one of my friends, Bryce, graduated from Oklahoma. He wrote about how if you're a real engineer, you then know that climate change is a serious thing, and this is why we exist. And so keep going. But this is definitely not to all oil and gas, but it's just Trumpism is definitely a part of oil and gas.
Yeah. Cary Moon, city council person in Fort Worth, was arrested on an alleged drunk driving incident. This, I believe it was last weekend, last Sunday, right after. Yeah, we got done recording, and then it was like, oh, wow, look at this. He then came out and said that he does not believe he needs to step down from his role because nobody was hurt in the incident. If any of you have been affected by drunk driving incidents, we're just really, really sorry. We hope this isn't a trigger for you. But it's really hard and sad to see somebody embody that immaturity, saying that, well, me driving drunk is only relevant if I had run somebody over. Like, man, you're running up on the curb. You ran up on the curb twice. Like, you're lucky that somebody wasn't up there. And I'm glad that somebody wasn't up there.
Yeah.
But I don't trust your decision making, and I don't think your opinion is relevant at all in any city council meeting going forward.
Yeah, and also we were also talking about how many people are actually in jail for the same exact thing.
Yeah.
How many people are losing their jobs for the same exact thing.
Exactly.
Part of the game. And here's the thing. I think, DUIs and all this is, we all know somebody, and we all know, how close of an incident maybe someone or we could have all been in any of these when we were super young in schools. And so I have understanding of how he might think he can just shrug it off because he's just another lucky night. Man, I can't believe I got home like that. But that's how bad things start happening.
Yeah.
And so we need to hold all of us more accountable, and specifically, our councilmen. Yeah.
You need to understand that if you're an elected official, your standard is higher than anybody else's because you represent the people of this city and of your district.
Yeah. But this always goes back to if this was a black councilman. I mean, it just goes back to like how LeBron James gets crucified for stuff, and how Barack Obama, gets crucified for stuff for the littlest things. Going back to even Donald Trump, right? Like, and I'm not like, I've come from divorced parents who remarried, and I'm not like anti, like, if you've had multiple marriages, like, cool. But Donald Trump, Melania is his third wife. Can we like you know how impossible it would be for like a black man on his third wife to get elected as president? Yeah. And like, it's clear that he had affairs with the other. Like, it's just like, and this is just a microcosm of white power and what you can get away with, because he's probably just going to get a pass.
Yeah,
because it just won't be a big enough story.
It wasn't even
got too much work.
It wasn't even brought up in the city council meeting. At least I followed the majority of it, and it was not brought up at all. Which I think he owes answers to his fellow council members. I think he owes answers to the people of his district, and I think he needs to be held accountable to this. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we also, since we're on the topic of local news, I know we also had, this is when you knew it was a slow Sunday, but this was one of our really kind of top stories was around Amy Coney Barrett, like had a little
bus tour here in good old South Maine, and the Black Lives Matter signs in front of Greenhouse 817 somehow miraculously were gone, got disappeared at this time, found in the trash. And this story made news. But I think it's crazy to even just see like how we will stand for something and then like act like animals or act childish. Like, oh, Cary Moon, oh,
we have to set ourselves at a higher standard. Hey, I'm gonna not, take the fall for my actions. Just say, oh, I didn't, and no one got hurt, so we're good.
Yeah, they're trying to say, we didn't have anything to do with it. And from the Star Telegram story, Greenhouse 817 is working towards moving out of that location, and so they don't have outdoor security cameras right now. And so nobody caught it on tape, but this rally, I guess, or I don't know, bus tour. It's a bus tour. I guess it's to drum up support
60,
for her.
60 people. So it wasn't crazy big.
But it was at 411 South Main in their courtyard.
Massive picture of her. All like it was a big bus.
Yeah.
Like,
no masks were being worn, even though that is required still. No social distancing was happening. It really just felt like a thumb to the nose of the community here, and a community that is trying to get back on track to come in and say, we don't care about your rules. Like, don't need to wear masks, don't need to distance. Let's take down the, peaceful, hardly even visible signs that people have showing support for other individuals in the community. Just a lot of toxic things around her nomination. And I hate, one, that it was even here, but two, that businesses were negatively affected by it and the community was negatively affected by it because they're uncomfortable with people displaying support for the community.
Yeah, and it just goes to, if you're a true Christian, thou shalt not steal, right? And you over here stealing signs, and throwing them in the trash, like, and the bus driver and everyone said, no, it wasn't us. We didn't see that. Like, no one did that over here on our side. So there's no true, I guess, proof of this happening.
It's like the Boogaloo Boys saying that they weren't the ones starting the riots in Minneapolis, even though FBI support shows that. Like, come on, you're not fooling anybody. Yeah.
Well, those are kind of our those I guess could have been our losses. If we did have some losses, it was the Mr. Moon and this little bus tour coming in here trying to cause a little ruckus. I guess those could be our loss. A win. There could be some wins. Jimmy, your Rays won.
That's right.
Your Rays won in really crazy fashion.
Yeah.
How you feel about that?
Got my heart rate going.
You got hockey. You got the Lightning. You're really on a roll.
Yeah, Tampa has been the city of champions so far. Hopefully the Rays keep it up. This weather has been beautiful. Like, we've really gotten the turn into fall now.
That's a great win.
I think that hopefully that'll help people get and stay outdoors. I think that generally it was a fairly positive week. I think it's a positive that we're only 9 days away from the election and are almost past all of the stress around it.
Yeah, great week. And next week we're going to be recording very kind of just focus on, it's the day before November 3rd, where we really get some updates on the election. It's election day and voting and what states are coming in, and see if we'll know on the 3rd. But on the 2nd, we're going to be interviewing Laura Lape, an influencer here in Fort Worth, someone who really stands up for a lot of different things around Fort Worth. So really excited to have her. Definitely check that one out when it comes out on Monday. And we're really going to focus in on Tarrant County politics, culture. She just has a good thumb on all that. And I think it's going to be really good to see her takes, even just on what we just talked about around, the negative kind of local politics stuff and negative kind of groups that keep flowing into our city, and how do we get through that? I think she's going to have great perspective. So make sure you kind of check that up, as I feel like a true follow-up and a springboard to what we just talked about.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. And as always, let us know if there's anything you want us to cover. And we look forward to seeing you next week.
Martin moved him with the meditation. Hell yeah, but I'm a panther running out of patience. Hell yeah.